I want to go ahead and get started, even while y'all ultimately will be eating your dessert, but we have backgammon tournament responsibilities also. So I very much appreciate all of y'all being here tonight for what is a special occasion in my mind. It's been a good year for the USBGF, and I want to recognize several people that are here tonight who help this organization do a lot of great things for backgammon in the United States. I think there are 8 current USBGF board members at the tournament this weekend. 7 of them are in the room tonight. 6 of them are in the room tonight. Neil Kazaros is at the tournament, but he's ill. He's upstairs. Tara Mendocino is at the tournament, but she's guarding the room at the moment, the playing room. We also have, in addition to myself, we have newly elected USBGF board member Frank Talbot. We have Julius High. Joe Russell. Richard Munitz, and of course Patrick Gibson. We also have Michelle Steinberg. And we also, in addition to those, we have 2 former board members who have given a lot of time and effort to the organization over the years, Mr. Harvey Gillis and Mr. Jeb Horton. I said we had a great year in 2015. Our membership increased significantly. Correspondingly, we gained a lot of new founding sponsors, prime benefactors. Our financial situation has improved considerably. So we positioned ourselves, I think, to do an even more substantial job in trying to promote the game in the United States and to provide additional resources to our members. And certainly we encourage all of y'all to feel free to contact any of us at any time with suggestions, ideas, what have you, and how we can better serve the members of the USBGF. I want to recognize just a couple of people, organizations that have been very instrumental in our tournament this weekend, and I see a number of people wearing our tournament t-shirts, which were very generously donated by Mr. Tom Buckner, and I'd like to thank him very much for that. These are some excellent people. And also our tournament sponsor, Jeffrey Parker Games, and the prizes that they provided us that will go to some of the champions and finalists in the tournament this weekend. So again, thank you to Jeffrey Parker Games. I want to try to keep this as short and brief as I can tonight. I do want to recognize some people who are at the tournament today. Some of them are in this room who have achieved some very high rankings in some of our USBGF stats and ranking systems, both live play and online play. So I just want to note a couple of these. Several of them are in the room, some are not. Top 10 cumulative ELO winners in the Open and Championship division. Number 1 is, and perhaps we'll by category wait till we name all of these and we can give them our recognition by applause. In the Open and Championship division, first place is Joe Russell. Fourth this year's Neil Kazaros. 7th is Ray Fogerlin, and 10th is Victor Askenazi. So I think they all deserve our thanks. In the intermediate, not in the room tonight, I guess, but in the tournament here this weekend, number 6, ELO David Taniguchi. Again, in the novice and beginners, she's not in here tonight, Rebecca Lively from here in this area, number 7 on the novice list. So, in the 2015 National Master Points in the top 10, we have number 1, Ray Fogerlin, number 4, Ed O'Loughlin, number 8, Frank Raposa, and number 9, Victor Ashkenazi. So congratulations to all of them. And in the, what's the difference here? The online Master Points top 10, we have here in the room tonight, number 8, Joe Russell. Congratulations to Joe. I think one interesting point to note, and I think it shows a bit, illustrates a bit about our organization and the international flavor that it's starting to take. On this online Master Points top 10 for the year in 2015, number 1 from the Czech Republic is, and I'm not great at pronouncing Czech Republic names, is Jan Cerny. Number 2 is Zdeněk Zizka, who is something like 16 years old. And number 4, and Zdeněk is from the Czech Republic, and number 4 is his mother, Eva Zikova. So 3 out of the 4 Master Points top 10 online are from the Czech Republic this year. So it's quite an accomplishment, I think, for them. One other quick note, I just wanted to, I think it's significant. We have, at the tournament this weekend, we have 5 former world champions, 3 of whom are in the room tonight. The 2 that aren't in the room are Mike Sabodny and Paul McGreal, but we have in the room tonight, just going to try to, thinking about doing this by order, but I don't remember. We have, I guess, Joe Russell, no, Lee Ganud, let's say Lee Ganud in 1981. Joe Russell in 1989. And Frank Frigo in 1994. So, an honor to have them here. So now, without much further ado, I want to get to the Hall of Fame induction announcements. Again, this is our second year. Last year we had an inaugural class, which was a group of 13. It was the first year it had been done. There was a lot of ground to catch up on over a 40 or 50 year history of modern backgammon in the United States. And I think quite appropriately, we had 13 inductees. This year, and I'm going to let, in a moment, Patrick Gibson, who is the chair of the Hall of Fame Committee, give a brief explanation of the process. This year, between the committee and their recommendations and the board of directors' input, the criteria were established, which resulted in 4 inductees this year. So now we'll have 17 total inductees in the Hall of Fame. And of course, we'll continue to add to that each year in a similar type basis. So I want to introduce Patrick to give us a little bit of a description of the Hall of Fame selection, ballot, and election process. Patrick.
I don't know if you could all hear Bill, but you will definitely all hear me. And if I let you down, let me know. All right, the Hall of Fame committee was a group of 5 people. And our job the previous year, with a few appointed longtime players in backgammon, was to build the nominations, to put people on the nominating ballot and then elect them. And you, the backgammon audience, didn't get a chance to do any of that because we were restricted in time frame. We needed to get done by the end of the year. That's the end of 2014 for the 2015 induction. This year, we got an online form, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about it and how it worked this year. In February 2015 was our first class. Bill stole some of my thunder. They are all great representatives. Significant bodies of work, substantial period of time, over the board and or contributors to the game of backgammon in the U.S. we felt that we needed to make up for 50 to 60 years of not having a Backgammon Hall of Fame. And we tried to do that last year, and we came up with 13 people that were inducted. And those, a few of them are not with us anymore. They were already gone, years gone by. We wanted an elite group in that first class, and we got it. We inducted 13 members, and alphabetically they were, or are, Mac Ballard, Carol Joy Cole, Barclay Cook, Bill Davis, Malcolm Davis, Kent Goulding, Oswald Jacoby, Neil Kazaros, Paul McGrill, Bill Roberti, Mike Senkowitz, Walter Trice, and Kit Woolsey. Those were our heroes, and still are. We only want the best of the best. We want the creme de la creme for our Hall of Fame. In 2015, we created an online nominating form so that our Backgammon community members could submit potential candidates for consideration. And you did that. The candidates to the Hall of Fame should be individuals who have, in two particular areas, a significant body of work over a substantial period of time in or for the game of backgammon in the United States. So we're not, if we have people outside the United States who have contributed to the U.S. backgammon, they can be candidates. But if they're run to the stars and the heroes that we know they are around the world, if they weren't contributing to the U.S. backgammon backgammon community, that's not what we were trying to do. So we didn't get people like Kumar's Modakasis as an example. Okay. They can be players, directors, authors, publishers, promoters, teachers, and or innovators. Any of those things or some combination of those things. And they have realized exceptional accomplishments, for example, demonstrated remarkable skill through success over the board and or gained achievements and recognition among the U.S. backgammon community. The form asks you to fill out two things besides the name if you submit it. And most of the people who submitted them did that, some didn't. And I think that may have hurt those people's chance to get in because they didn't define what I'm asking for. Notable awards and achievements, accomplishments, win, publications, produced events, giants, ABT. Why do you think that she or he should be in? A paragraph describing their significant body of work. I'm almost done. We got 42 nominations, nominating forms, for 25 candidates. So some candidates got more than one form, but that wasn't a voting process. It's just nominating forms to be considered to the ballot for the American Backgammon Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame vetted these candidates. In effect, we looked at them, the Hall of Fame committee, and tried to pick off the creme de la creme and submit those to our board of directors for certification. We submitted 12 names, and in addition, we added in the names from the year one's ballot who didn't get in but did receive votes. So we ended up with 24 candidates this year. They went to the ballot. And the ballot is done by 31 electors, each with many years' experience in our U.S. backgammon community, made up of the 5 members of the Hall of Fame committee, the 10 remaining USBGF board members, 6 appointed electors who were picked up in the first year because we didn't have enough to be electors and we wanted some more input there, and the non-deceased members of the first year's Hall of Fame election, induction. And all of them elected to be, agreed to become electors. And now for the results and the induction, back to Bill Riles.
Okay, tonight, for the presentations, I'm joined by our USBGF historian, Mr. Robert Stoller. And just very briefly, before I turn the first introduction over to Robert, I just want to reiterate what Patrick said in one regard. And it's so important that we recognize people who have contributed in any number of fashions to the game. Of course, the great players and the accomplishments that they've made are a huge part of the game. But other people, directors, authors, organizers, have provided us all the opportunities to realize that ability to play and to demonstrate those skills in tournaments on a worldwide basis. So I think it's appropriate that both types of individuals are represented in the Hall of Fame. So, as we said, I think I said earlier, perhaps Patrick said earlier, we have 4 inductees tonight. I'm going to turn it over to Robert Stoller for the first introduction. Robert.
Thank you all very much. Thank you, Bill. So, Bill has earlier noted we have 5 former world champions here at this tournament. And it's my privilege for the first of our inductees this year to mention yet another former world champion. And I'm going to move over to my little presentation table here and get some notes.
Didn't bring notes about a book.
I brought lots of books.
He does his homework.
I brought lots of stuff for show and tell, but our first inductee is former world champion Tim Holland. Now, Tim Holland won the world championship 3 times. He's the only person, according to Wikipedia, ever to have won the world championship of backgammon 3 times. And he also authored 3 books, which I have on the table. But I would say, for purposes of sheer entertainment value, the best thing about Tim Holland was he got his obituary in the New York Times. And when I was doing my Wikipedia research, I found it and printed it out, and I'm going to read it because it is one great obit. Mr. Holland died on March 10, 2010, and a week later, here is the obituary. Tim Holland, backgammon master, dies at 79. The author is Dennis Habisi. Tim Holland, who was widely considered the world's greatest backgammon player during that ancient board game's modern heyday in the 1960s and 70s, died on March 10, 2010, at his home in West Palm Beach, Florida. He was 79. The cause was emphysema, his daughter Vanessa Holland said. In winning tournament after tournament and 3 world championships, Mr. Holland brought a cool self-confidence to the rapid-fire clacking of the checker-like pieces, the men, around the 24 narrow triangles of the backgammon board. He did not speak. He did not smile. His eyes rarely left the table, John Bradshaw wrote of Mr. Holland in his 1975 book, Fast Company. There was a palpable arrogance in his play. He rolled the dice and moved the men about the board with the poise of a man who knows that victory is only a matter of time. God, would you like to have someone write that about you? Mr. Holland won the World Backgammon Association Championships in 1967, 1968, and 1971. Beside retaining the title, he pocketed more than $30,000 in prize money for each of those championships. Now, you got to remember, back in 67, 68, $30,000 was a university professor's full year salary. By the early 1970s, he was averaging $60,000 a year in tournament money, and that did not include significant earnings from bets he had placed on himself or his percentage from the winnings of the highest bidders at tournaments where the best players were auctioned off. Holland is generally believed to be the best backgammon player in the world, the New York Times said in a 1974 article describing the renaissance of a game played in the days of the pharaohs. In the 5 years since 1969, it said, the number of Americans playing backgammon jumped from 200,000 to 2 million. By then, they were spending more than $6 million a year on backgammon sets, from run-of-the-mill boards selling for $5 to Chinese lacquer designs costing more than $500. In that revival, Mr. Holland saw another path to profit. Teaching, he wrote 3 books, and I've got them on the table. Beginning Backgammon, 1973, Better Backgammon, 1974 for intermediate players, and Backgammon for People Who Hate to Lose in 1977, about the psychological aspects of the game. Alexis Obolensky, a Russian émigré aristocrat, had introduced backgammon to the jet set in the 1960s, organizing tournaments in the Bahamas, Monte Carlo, and St. Martin. In 1972, he founded the Backgammon Association of America, establishing a standardized set of rules, now succeeded by the U.S. Backgammon Federation. The backgammon craze has somewhat faded since. Still, it is believed to be the world's oldest game. Archaeologists have discovered a 5,000-year-old board at the site of Ur of the Chaldees in Iraq. In Egypt, a backgammon set, or I'll editorialize something like a backgammon set, was found in King Tut's tomb. To this day, it is a favored game in the Middle East. It was not always Mr. Holland's favorite game. Born on March 3, 1931, in Rockville Center, New York, Simeon Holland was the only son of Simeon and Inez Holland. When he was 7, Tim, as he later chose to be called, won a father-son golf tournament and a mother-son tournament at a local country club. He starred on his high school golf team, then decided that Florida was the best place to play that game. After graduating from the University of Miami in 1952, he struggled to make a living playing golf. At a country club in Miami, he noticed several older men playing a board game he had never seen before. They taught him, and he was hooked. Besides his daughter, Mr. Holland is survived by his wife of 28 years, the former Nancy Zorn, 2 stepsons, Andrew and Jimmy Zorn, and a granddaughter, Stephanie. Mr. Holland was divorced 4 or 5 times, his daughter said. No surprise. I think Phil Simborg has said he's never let any of his marriages interfere with his backgammon game. In backgammon, a game for 2 players, each player moves 15 men along the triangles or points of the pattern of the board according to the roll of the dice. The first to remove all 15 wins. Although luck plays a significant role with each roll of the dice, players must still choose from among numerous options for moving pieces and anticipate counter moves by the opponent. And they can raise the gambling stakes during the game. It's the luck factor that seduces everyone into believing that they are good, that they can actually win. But that's just wishful thinking, Mr. Holland was quoted in Fast Company as saying. It took several years and losses of about $30,000 to master the game, he continued. Let me tell you, it took a little time, he said, but I got it all back from the sharks that took it from me. I got it back and more, I got it back in spades. So that's Tim Holland, our Hall of Fame inductee. So here is our plaque, and I think it is fitting that I ask a world champion to accept this on behalf of Mr. Holland. Now, as historian of the USBGF, I'm going to do some research and see if we can find a family member. We don't have a family member yet, but Mr. Russell, Joe Russell, can I impose on you to accept this for Mr. Holland? Yes. You are to orient yourself on the yellow X, and I have to orient myself on the red X.
Hold out one more time. Tilt it back up, please. There we go. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Thank you very much, Robert. Thank you, Joe. The next inductee I have the privilege of being a personal friend with. And since I started playing in ABT events, national events, beginning in perhaps in 2003, this gentleman is one of those names that's synonymous with backgammon in the United States. I'll tease you with a few facts. He's run tournaments and played backgammon, organized clubs and so forth for 30-plus years in Chicago and Las Vegas. Huh. He was chosen to direct the Party Gammon Million in the Bahamas. From 2009 to 2012, he co-directed the Monte Carlo tournament, the World Championship. He's a very good player as well, in addition to all that he's done for us in organizing tournaments and providing us the opportunities to play. He won the Michigan Summer Championships, 1984-1993. He won Bill Davis's Midwest Championship in 1990. And in 2012, he made the rare double win at the LA Open of winning both the championship and the super jackpot on the same weekend. He's he's in the top 50 all-time in ABT rankings. He was third in the ABT in the inaugural year of 1993. He was 17th in 2003 and 8th in 2012. For over 30 years, he's put his own unique stamp on backgammon tournaments, with his high payouts attracting the largest number of entrants and drawing top players from around the world. Our newest inductee to the American Backgammon Hall of Fame, Mr. Howard Markwood.
Thank you. In 1976, 40 years ago, my then wife learned how to play backgammon from a girlfriend. And my ex-wife taught me. Who knew? That it would all culminate in tonight, being in the American Backgammon Hall of Fame. There's a lot of stuff. I'm not quite done. You know, when the USBGF formed, I had my doubts, and I still had my doubts until Bill became president. And the fact that the USBGF has even come up with this Hall of Fame, I think, is a tremendous step toward legitimacy for the event, for the group, no question about it. I owned Gammons of Chicago in Chicago for 5 years, from 79 to 84. I then owned the Bridge Club, where a lot of backgammon was played, for the next 6 years. Then I moved to Vegas. And I've lived in Vegas ever since, except for 2.5 years when I went back to Chicago and then came back to Vegas again. And the tournaments that I run have been a terrific thing for me to be able to run them twice a year, every single year since 1993. So that's 23 years. So again, I want to say one more thing about this tournament and Bill Riles. I cannot say enough in terms of how great a job that he's done over these past 3 or 4 years in terms of this tournament and in terms of really looking out for all of us players as players for the USBGF. So give a great hand for Bill Riles. And the last thing I'll say is come to Vegas in April. See you then. Thanks very much.
Step over here and I'll give you the, right, you want to join us?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Right here, gentlemen. Here we go, 1, 2, 3, one more, please. Last one. Thank you.
Thank you, Howard.
As you can see, Bill and I are tag teaming this. So, think about what Patrick said, a significant body of work over a substantial period of time. What I brought down from my collection of books in Anchorage is the array of books authored by our next Hall of Fame inductee. Now, these are not all the books that he has contributed to. These are just all the books he has written, starting with Vision Laughs at Counting and Miss Lonely Blot's Advice to the Dice Lord, all the way to The Long Road to Gammon. I totaled it up. It's 2,265 pages just by Danny Kleinman alone. But he also co-authored 5 additional books, 4 with Antonio Ortega and 1 with Norm Wiggins. So he was informed that we were going to make this presentation, but unfortunately he is in Los Angeles. He has health issues and couldn't be with us. But he sent Bill Riles a very, very touching e-note, and I have it in my notebook, so I'm going to bring it up and I'm going to read Danny's note because I can't do better than Danny himself did. While I'm getting going here, in sequence, Vision Laughs at Counting with Advice to the Dice Lord, first edition 1980, revised 1996, the Lulu editions, which I have here, published by the Stroman family, 2007. Wonderful World of Backgammon, 1981. Meanwhile, Back at the Chouette, 1981. Double Sixes from the Bar, 1982. Is There Life After Backgammon? A useful question. 1983, which Danny says absolutely yes. It's the frontispiece of that book. How Can I Keep from Dancing? Struggling to get your checkers back into play when they've been hit. That was 1983. The Dice Conquer All, 1984. How Little We Know About Backgammon, 1985. The Other Side of Midnight, 1986. But Only the Hogs Win Backgammon, 1987. A Backgammon Book for Gabriel. Gabriel was his father, 1994. And the last one, Long Road to Gammon, 1995. But then, in addition, the books with Antonio Ortega and Norm Wiggins. Now, here is his response, his e-response to Bill Riles. Dear Bill, thanks for the invitation, but I am not able to attend. I sent you separately an electronic photograph of myself. The young woman with me is my daughter, whom I sired on April 14, 1984, at a time when I was childless, in anticipation of assassination by Steve Goldman, a backgammon player who had been accused of cheating by Mike Labens and Paul Weaver in a meeting I held with them 3 weeks earlier, but had not yet been accused by me. Footnote, Danny was in fact physically assaulted for exposing several major cheaters in the backgammon community of the day. The attempted assassination, he writes, came on February 11, 1986, but I survived it. So here, major courage in addition to major contribution. Phil Simborg conducted an interview of me that you can find by Googling my name. That's true. It's archived on the Backgammon Galore website. It was originally published in the Gammon Village magazine in 2010, and it is a very, very touching interview, and I strongly urge you all to look at it. So, in the spirit of Yogi, the late Yogi Berra, I would like to thank those who made my election to the Backgammon Hall of Fame necessary. David Stry, who introduced me to checkers, the other side of the backgammon board, in 1944. Millard Hopper, the then unrestricted world checker champion, who opposed me over the checkerboard in 1950, and unbeknownst to me at the time, had authored a backgammon book in the 1930s. Stella Rebner, who thrust me into a $2 chouette at the Cavendish West in 1974, before I knew how to set up the starting position. I would wait until my opponent placed his checkers, then form a mirror image with my own. Mike Gilbert, who sat by my side and made critical comments about the checker plays of Jackgammon, the backgammon playing machine I programmed in 1975 and 1976. Lee Ganud, who inspired me to write about backgammon. Paul McGreal, who saved me the trouble of writing a backgammon textbook by writing a fine textbook first. Paul McGreal, one of our initial Hall of Fame inductees last year. Barclay Cook, with whom I became friends and corresponded from 1978 to 1981. Barclay Cook, deceased, also one of our initial Hall of Fame inductees. Jeremy Bajai, who mercifully spared my books the criticisms he leveled at the excellent books of McGrill and Cook when he wrote his classic Backgammon Revisited. Bill Davis, who solicited material from me for the Chicago Point during the many years he published it. Bill Davis, founder of the American Backgammon Tour, again, one of our initial Hall of Fame inductees last year. By the way, Danny was a contributing editor of Chicago Point for the entire run of Chicago Point. I brought down my collection of Chicago Points. There were a few issues he missed occasionally when he had health issues, but he was in substantially every single issue of Chicago Point, either in his own name or Shades of Gray, a column that he wrote about rules, or in his alter ego, Miss Lonely Blots. Antonio Ortega, who collaborated with me on several books. Norm Wiggins, who enlisted me to edit his own backgammon book. The Stroman family, Larry and his son Randy, who produced superior printed editions of my backgammon books. Those are the ones on the table. Danny self-published. His books were done on a typewriter with hand-drawn diagrams. And lastly, Phil Simborg, who challenges me with thorny backgammon problems still. Well, you heard Danny give credit to Lee Gunud. World champion Lee Gunud is here, and I'm going to impose on her to accept the Hall of Fame plaque on behalf of Danny Kleinman.
Come over here and we'll give you the plaque and then you can speak. Okay.
Early in the 70s, the Cavendish Club in Los Angeles was one of the #1 places. And that's where I was learning how to direct and hustle and get the game. Danny was always by my side, my own personal cheering section. And he didn't play the game, hardly ever. I didn't know that he knew how. And next thing, he's writing books that I couldn't believe. And he's the sweetest guy, a total angel heart. So when the books came out, and they asked me when I won the World Championship, what do you do? How do you learn how to play? I said, go home and read Danny Kleinman for the next year. I wish I'd listened to my own information. But there's no kinder, smarter person, and I still got to say to all of us, how do you be that brilliant? And when you're all writing all the wonderful things you're writing, he did it before anybody, and the kindest human being I know.
For those of you who were here last year or saw the great videotape from our video record of last year's presentation, which is on the USBGF website, you'll notice I changed sidekicks for the presentation this year. And that was by design. The next inductee is both a mentor and a friend of mine, a confidant and a great counsel to me. He's done so much for the game, not only as a player, but more so perhaps as a director, as a member of the USBGF board from the inception, a founding member of the board of directors. He's on the executive committee, he's on the Hall of Fame committee. He handles all the rating and stats of all the tournaments that are played. And perhaps one of his foremost attributes is he's always willing to help. If anybody asks him for advice, how do I run a club, how do I run a tournament, let me come help you that first year and I'll show you. He's known as the consummate person of integrity and fairness, yet sternness. He's not called the MFIC for nothing. Read from our plaques in the magazine here. Known as the quintessential tournament director, he's gained widespread affection and universal respect for his fairness, integrity, and dedication. He's directed 76 Los Angeles Open and California State Championships, over 3,600 weekly tournaments in the Los Angeles area, and beginning in 2016 Veter Cup tournaments in La Jolla. It's the oldest tournament in the United States. He served as co-director of numerous tournaments, including a number of startup tournaments. He's a trusted source of advice to tournament directors across the United States and to many of us on the U.S. Backgammon Federation Board. He established Gammon Associates Club in 1978, nurtured its growth into the largest USBGF Prime Club today. I'm honored to have him as a friend, Patrick Gibson.
And if you're not on time, you'll get penalty points. And you know you'll get them. It's a great honor. And I may hard. Okay. I'm usually not at a loss for words. I think my partner today in the doubles event, the tournament, thank you. In the tournament of my doubles partner in the tournament of stars was Kit Woolsey. He said at one point we were analyzing a position. He said, "Stop talking." And of course, since he was the pro and is one of my heroes, of course I did that. But we laughed because we knew it was difficult for me to stop talking. I'm truly honored by this induction into the American Backgammon Hall of Fame. I want to thank those who inspired and encouraged me during my backgammon career, and it's not over. Sid Jackson. I had been running my local club tournaments for a couple years, and I had never been to a big tournament, and he held one in LA called the California Open in 1979 at the Universal Studios Sheraton. I walked in my first big tournament, and I was early. I'm always early. I'm never late. I walked in, and he put me to work. And I was put on staff 2 tournaments later, more California Opens, 1981, 1982, and working next to me was Howard Markowitz. Both of us. And we had done tournaments, but we hadn't met each other. Anyway, and we're hooked, like that. Gammon Associates, which is my local club name, was born because Sid Jackson and Donna put out logo and graphics and stationery. So I want to thank Sid Jackson. He's still alive and not as well as possible, but still alive and well in Florida. I also want to thank Kent Goulding. Backgammon with the Champions, Inside Backgammon. Kent Goulding's international ratings list. My club definitely participated in that. We sent in weekly tournaments, and we sent in, I forget, $5 a sheet to get his wife to enter them, because we liked the rating system. We liked being able to compare to that. And he shared his ELO calculation, which he and the chess people came up with, and we started using our local club just ourselves, starting at an 800 level instead of a 1500 level. Anyway, he's one of my heroes, one of the greatest auctioneers of all time, and I want to thank Kent Goulding. I want to thank Ray Fogerlin. Longtime Gammon Associates player and friend. He came up with the idea of 1,000-to-1 club, the first in the U.S. You win 10 matches in a row, the odds against you are 10-23-1, 1,000-to-1 club. And I had gone to Chess and Games when they went bankrupt and bought a bunch of brass cubes, and we made that it. We wiped out the 64 side, and it says GA 1001 Club. Ray's idea. He had lots of ideas and feedback on our Gammon Associates competitions, including one that I never took under my wing, which was, Gibson, you run the tournament, and if there's a bye in round 3, you can't be eligible for it. I says, bullshit. Of course I can. I'm just like everybody else in there. I put my money in, but I never did. I got a bye every once in a while. And he said, that's not fair. Well, that's the way it goes. But he also, what does he know? He's also my coach. Coached me on match strategy, coached my game, advice about how to play certain opponents. I've sat at many of his matches by his side and rooted for him, and I know he's done the same for me. Anyway, thank you, Ray. Another individual who influenced me a lot, and still with us, thank goodness, is Norm Wiggins. Consummate gentleman of the game, longtime Gammon Associates player and friend. We drive to Vegas twice a year because Howard says we have to. And he wouldn't be a Vegas tournament if we weren't there. He discusses positions, he discusses strategy, he's mentoring me, mentoring our club players. And he wrote a great book called Boards, Blots, and Double Shots. I want to thank Kit Woolsey. I think he even mentioned it last year, but I'm definitely mentioning it this year. Match quiz, which most of you don't have anything to do with or don't see it anymore, etc. That was the biggest game leveler racing for me ever. At lunchtime, I would play match quiz, and it's basically an annotated match, and you had to answer questions, do I want to double, do I not want to double, how do I want to play, do I not want to play, and he had annotated. My game went way up. Didn't go up high enough, but it went way up. And I also paid a lot of attention to Tournament Backgammon and his other books, the Cube Encyclopedia and New Ideas in Backgammon, and Match Quiz and New Ideas were both done with Hal Heinrich. But thank you, Kit. And I paid him back today because we didn't win. But he actually did a great job. I also want to thank Karen Davis, and I'm sorry she's not here, USBGF Chairman of the Board of Directors, for her leadership and mentoring our startup, USBGF. We wouldn't be where we are today if it wasn't for her. And Bill and everybody that's around her knows that. And we all, and like Howard said, Bill has done an awesome job and is doing an awesome job, and I'm so happy you reelected him, because I don't know what we'd do if he wasn't reelected. Anyway, her advice and counsel and help truly enhancing our accomplishments. For her untiring efforts, she has an unbelievable depth of ability to put time in and get things done. She's in charge of the membership system, membership process. She manages the managing editor for Primetime Magazine. There's nothing better out there. There's a lot of people who contribute to that, but she's the lady that makes it happen. She makes me so proud to be on the USBGF board. And I don't want to forget the players. I want to thank the backgammon players. This wouldn't be happening if you didn't keep coming. They keep coming to my weekly events. I typically have 20 to 25 players every Wednesday and almost the same number on Sunday, twice a week forever. And the big events. I get people from all over the country and, of course, the world sometimes too, and the ABT and the Vitor Cups. Without these players' enthusiasm and their expressed appreciation, their attendance continued to provide me with the great satisfaction and encourage me to keep on doing them. Thank you, players. And last and not least of all, I'm going to thank my wife, Carla. She's always supported me in my interests. Scuba diving. We were dating, and I had gone scuba diving on the night after our first date. I had to run for the boat because we were going out about 60 miles out. And we were starting to date, and I'm very monopolistic, meaning I want all your time. And I said, what are we doing Sunday? And she says, oh, I'm busy. I said, what do you mean you're busy? She said, I signed up for scuba diving class. Okay, hang on. But she's been willing to support me as becoming a better player. We have semi-vacations at tournament sites, but we had some great ones. The Atlantis tournament, Costa Rica, Cancun, Buenos Aires, Rio de Janeiro, and I'm sure there's a couple I'm missing too, that are, awesome actual vacation sites. But typically we don't get a lot of vacation. As she says, I don't even see what's outside, around the hotel usually. She allows me to put in, and she says it's my second job and I don't have a first job anymore because I've been retired since 2005, putting in so many hours on the Gammon Associates website, planning and running tournaments, and I can't run them without her. She's there. She makes it my thing work and makes sure she keeps me reined in, and most of you can't do it. She can. And being active on the USBGF board and its committees. True love has been expressed by her, and we're happily together. 47 years.
Thank you. Carla, why don't you come up here too?
This is for you as well. Come on up.
Thank you.
And you all thought I was hard-hearted. Don't tell anybody.
Glasses.
My glasses,
And your notes.
and in my notes, and my handkerchief.
I love these occasions. Last year was great. I didn't know if it could be topped. Fortunately, I think the two gentlemen that were with us here tonight allowed us to rival last year's event. Thank y'all. Thank everybody for attending. As I said last year, a little plug, the new magazine's out. A lot of information on the Hall of Fame. Inductees, articles, plaques, things of that nature. But right now, we got to go back to work. Backgammon. Thank you all so much.